The next topic we're going to discuss on Boxing Bros. Frank Warren defends the promoter's partnership with Saudi Arabia. So Simon Jordan, popular. I'm not saying he's popular for a good reason, but he's a popular person in the UK, someone who covers boxing. He wrote an article stating how he didn't think the Saudi Arabian national anthem should have been played in Wembley before the Anthony Joshua fight. And Carl Froch agreed with him. So here's what Carl Froch had to say about them playing the national anthem for Saudi Arabia before Anthony Joshua and Daniel Dubois.
Of Saudi Arabia. There's no need for it. I agree, we don't need to play it. If a Saudi fighter was in the ring, on top in the bill, then you need to hear the anthem. But we didn't need it. The place turned green. And I think a big deal was made of it because there was no fighter on it, but because people like Oliver Brown, who has got a right to free press like everybody who's doing journalism, he was banned from going in to Wembley Stadium reporting on the fight. He got to the venue and he wasn't allowed access. That's restricting the right for free speech. It's totally wrong. It's totally out of order. How can you stop a guy who's been doing journalism for 20 years? How can you stop him from coming in to report on a boxing match just because he's done a piece in a news article about Saudi Arabia, the facts and the truth about Saudi in his piece? You can't be banning people and stopping people from going in. Eddie Hearn and Bricktop are getting pissed off with the people that are calling this out because they're on the old Bunsen burner. They're going to want to keep it sweet, aren't they? I were playing the national anthem of Saudi Arabia.
So that's Carl Froch. If you don't know, that's Carl the Cobra Froch, a great fighter in his time, Hall of Famer. You can catch his show called Froch on Boxing. That was his take on it. All right, so now we're going to look at Frank Warren respond to Simon Jordan's criticism along with Carl Froch. So here's what Frank Warren had to say, and he said this during the press conference.
Frank, Riyadh season's been insane, right? Incredible. Eddie mentioned it would be a year once this fight rolls around. Jai, great to have you in the building as well, Jai. It would be a year since the first Riyadh season event, Tyson Fury versus Francis Ngannou. How would you sum up the 12 months so far in Riyadh season?
Game changer, which we said last year. This would be and has been the game changer for British boxing, for the world boxing scene. You know, Riyadh season now means the best fights in the world. That's what it is. If you say Riyadh season, they're the best fights in the world. That's what's been delivered. The fights that the fans want to see. And I just want to add, before going on about it, I just want to add to what Eddie said. Why is there criticism here? I don't get this whatsoever. You know, people, a small minority of people complaining about a national anthem being played. The clue is in the name. It's called Riyadh season. That's why we were at Wembley, because they enabled that huge event to be made. As Eddie said, as I know, I'm sure Todd will agree, these type of events would not be able to be made without that financial input. And it's because of the love of boxing from His Excellency and the fact that he's chairman of Riyadh season has made that happen. And the fans there, were they disappointed? Did you hear anybody moaning about the event? The only people you hear moaning about it are people who are not included, who had, or maybe had a meeting cancelled when they couldn't, when they were blown out because of the they put their nose out of joint. And there's one person in particular, which I'm going to deal with afterwards. I will speak to some of the guys and tell you how I feel about what's been said today. But it's ridiculous. This has been brilliant for boxing. You know, I'm looking at there's Colin, the Doyen of boxing over there, Colin Hart, and you know, sitting there next to him is Jeff Powell. They've been all around the world. They've seen big fights. They've been to Kinshasa. They've been to the Fleur in Manila. They've done all these. You know, we've got Todd here. He's, you know, his stepfather. All these big fights he was involved with around the world. People complaining where fights are taking place. Big fights took place in Africa, in the Philippines, all over Jamaica. Big fights. What's the moan about all this? I don't get it one little bit. The fights are happening. The fans are getting what they want, which are the big fights, great fights. And here we are today. We're involved with a show that's got another great fight, the Game of Thrones. These 4 belts on the line. 2 undefeated fighters, 43 fights between them, undefeated. You know, one of them has the most perfect record, 20 fights, 20 knockouts. This is something special. And it's
so he goes on to just state how, yeah, it's good for the boxers, they're getting paid, and he goes on to admit, yeah, we're getting paid well, we're getting paid well as well. That's what he goes on to state, and he's talking about himself and Eddie Hearn. So he admits that it's good for their bottom line, and they're benefiting from Riyadh season and Saudi Arabia being involved in boxing. All right, so then we're going to listen to what Frank Warren had to say about Carl Froch. So here's what Frank Warren had to say about Carl Froch.
Who gives a flying fuck about Carl Froch or what he's got to say? Is anybody really interested?
$2 bill. I'm going to turn it over to you. What's your reaction to Frank Warren defending the partnership with Saudi Arabia and Carl Froch, Simon Jordan, and some people from the UK? They do have issue with the way that Frank Warren and Eddie Hearn seem to be bending over backwards for Turkey Al-Sheikh. Pause, no pun intended.
That's because it ain't y'all turn. Y'all ain't up. Frank's up. Frank been winning. Frank been winning. He ain't trying to hear nothing that y'all trying to say. Frank's been winning. Listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's what Frank's trying to say. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Frank's been up. Everything's been up since then, so Frank's like, hey, I don't see no problem. I've been winning and I've been getting that money. So I ain't mad. And Eddie's looking like, hey, like you said, he's been using Turkey Al-Sheikh to keep the lights on. So he ain't going to complain at all. He said, let him play his little song in front of them. We don't care as long as he keeps on signing them checks. He can play any song he want to play. You know what I'm saying? Let Eminem come out and say if he want. You know what I'm saying? So they don't care. Shout out to Frank. Frank don't care as long as he keep winning. Frank is having the time of his life right now. He's just looking at everybody else as haters. That's what he's looking at. He's like, hey, we eating. That's what Frank basically said. He said, I hear what everybody else saying, but we eating, So as long as they good, Frank's like, I don't care about nobody else.
Yeah, so look, a few things.
But we did say this was going to happen.
Yeah, we did. We did. People got at us. This is a complex issue, okay? Because one, you have to be very careful what you say. And you heard Carl Froch point out the fact that a journalist who wrote about sports washing and exposed some real facts about what takes place in Saudi Arabia, and it was not allowed in the arena. So basically, this journalist would normally journalism is you reporting, being objective, given the facts. This journalist did that and wasn't allowed into the arena. So Carl Froch is stating this is just the beginning. Like, if you're going to start banning people because they write some facts, then how far is this going to go? Well, I'm not even a journalist in the UK. I have a channel. I made a video about sports washing, and it got taken down on my YouTube channel, which has under 1,000 subs. So it's not like I'm some major threat or whatever. It got taken down. And then not only did they take down the video, but then YouTube limited what I'm allowed to do on my channel in terms of going live and certain things. So it's like, dang, I got shut down all crazy too. And the only thing I put in the video was facts. So what Carl Froch is getting at is there seems to be restriction if you're not reporting what they want you to report. So I understand it from that aspect. Now, getting to the uproar about the national anthem being played in Wembley, although there wasn't a fighter from Saudi Arabia at the top of the bill, I don't necessarily know if I see that as a major problem. But I hear what they're saying. They're wondering why, but to me, that's what Saudi Arabia is paying for, and you already know that. That's what we talked about, sports washing. They're paying for you to see Saudi Arabia in a positive light. So while they're in Wembley, they want you to know this is brought to you by Riyadh season. This is Riyadh season. They want you to associate the positivity, the fun you feel, the joy you feel from that event with Riyadh, with Saudi Arabia, and those things. Now, I don't want to be all negative because I spoke with some of our supporters and users who are from that region and who understand what's happening there better. And what they stated is Saudi Arabia is trying to make a move and is trying to change its reputation, but not just trying to do it through sports washing, but it's actually something that's happening within the society where they're trying to give more rights to their citizens. They're trying to become more aligned with, say, the UK, the United States, and they even have a women's boxing card that's going to take place in Saudi Arabia with Sky Nichols, and that's going to be the first of its kind. They have a women's boxing program, and they're trying to really move forward and change things. So again, if you look at every country has its dark past. That's from the UK to the United States. Every country has its history of civil rights violations, and we can dive into it. But the reality is, when do you get to move forward from your past, and when should people support you and things of that nature? So I get all that. So I don't want to dive into it, and I don't want to dump on that. But I do think a strong point is, if you're talking about something that they don't want you to talk about, they won't let you in the arena, or they'll just take down your channel, or they'll do things. That, to me, is where the problem lies, because we talked about this. It started with, I won't work with Tim Tszyu. I won't do this. Now, if Riyadh Boxing League, because I call it the Riyadh Boxing League because that's really what it is. It's Riyadh season, but it's the Riyadh Boxing League. If they become the most powerful entity in the sport of boxing, and then they're going to start excluding people, well, now we have something very bad in the sport of boxing. And Frank Warren, like Trill pointed out, he's positioning himself as being the primary promoter, because him and Eddie at first, maybe they were neck and neck, but he's been putting belt to butt to Eddie, to the point where, as you saw in our last video, Turkey said, you got Snicker, you got darts, after Saturday, we won't really need you. The reality is, Eddie is hanging on by a thread. And if Arthur Beterbiev beats Dmitry Bivol, Eddie Hearn is in a dire position, because the reality is they can just take all his other fighters and they won't really need Eddie. And Eddie's going to be in a position where all the best fighters fight for Turkey, and where is Eddie going to go? I try to point this out to people before as to why I said this isn't necessarily a good thing for boxing, but everybody, at the end of the day, you're right. I should just be a fan, right? So let me just be a fan. If that's the case, then it is what it is. But you heard what Chris Eubank Jr. said, and we're going to get to that in a second. He's already disrespecting Eddie Hearn, Frank Warren, and everyone is saying Turkey's really that guy, and that's what's happening. Turkey's really that guy. These dudes are just straw men, and at the end of the day, when their straw doesn't work anymore, he's just going to get rid of them. So now what you're seeing is Frank Warren defending, Eddie Hearn defending, and you're seeing people push back now. And this is what I was trying to say. It was all fun and games. It was all cool. You saw some of the comment section saying how it's disgusting to see them bending over, to see them kneeling, kissing the ring. We try to tell you this before it happened. And it's not that we don't want Turkey Al-Sheikh in boxing. It's not that we don't want to see the big fights. But there's just a certain matter of when everyone is bending the knee, getting on their knees, and kissing the feet of someone just because of money. And the reality is they could have done this themselves. Frank and Eddie could have done this themselves a long time ago, but they didn't want to assume the risk or whatever. So Saudi Arabia is coming with the money. They bending over. That's just what it is. But people are watching and people are grossed out by it. Now, you ask me why I stand. Here's why I stand. I told you already. I think it's bad for the sport if one person controls everything, if one person dominates everything, because then they can exclude, they can do certain things. That's why you don't want one person to have a monopoly on the game. It's not that I don't want to see the best fights, but I think about what happens once the game is in control of one person. That's when certain things can change. But everybody else is saying they cool with it. So now where I stand is I want to see the best fights. Yes, I do. I want what's best for the sport. We'll see what happens. I'm now at this point where I'm going to reserve my opinion for later. I want to see how this works. I want to see how it continues to unfold. I want to see how it continues to play out. But right now, people are saying what we said would happen a while ago. People are starting to say it now. That seems to happen a lot on Boxing Bros.
Let us know how you feel in the comment section. Please like and subscribe. Check us out on Instagram and Twitter. And please check out our podcast on all major streaming services. I'm the Commissioner Trill Dollar Bill. That's my brother Katie. You already know how we rock it. It's the Boxing Bros.
Tell Zombie to put the guns away. He's scaring some of the people, some of the low T guys.